Cheers, guys! English Rabisco here, and Windows 11 turns 1 year old today. It's crazy how fast time goes by. Well, today, I'm going to talk about my experience, and I'm sure many others with this Windows 11 thing, from the good and the bad, and then the ugly of it all. So let's start with the good of Windows 11. First, it looks aesthetically better than the previous versions that came before, 10, 8.1, and 8 specifically. And it looks like transparency effects have been emphasized more, and they look great! Like, it comes out really nicely here. It's not necessarily the skeuomorphic design of, say, 7 or, well, past years, but Microsoft also seems to be past pure flat design here, which is great because flat design just doesn't work in this kind of scenario. And a lot of the icons and the windows, the widgets themselves have texture now, like almost like a glass texture on the windows, a frosty texture. The widgets on Windows 11 also look pretty nice too. They can tell you the weather and wherever you are, or sports updates, or the news, or stuff like that. It can be quite useful for some people who just want to check the headlines perhaps. And also, the built-in apps got nice upgrades as well, like the calculator app and the clock app. And how could I forget the apps that have finally gotten some attention after being neglected for maybe around 10 years or so, like the Paint app and its new coat of paint. No pun intended. And the snipping tool and all the new features of it. Like the calculator now has a graphing calculator built into it. That's pretty cool. And here we get to the bad part. It's still buggy, and even to this day, it's still unfinished. Like, it's a mess, still. For example, the volume slider is like that from the Windows 8 days. That's still here, even though they said it would be fixed like a year ago. And just small glitches in graphics and stuff makes this just not feel right. Especially when you're using it every day. Also, some changes are rather inconvenient. My examples are, the File Explorer ribbon was just great in Windows 10. It was really useful, and now they trimmed it down and made it smaller, and they got rid of a lot of that utility with no option to bring it back. And the fact when you plug in, say, headphones or something, it never works right away. It always has some pop-up asking what you just plugged in. And while it is nice, but it just wants to make sure, it is a little bit inconvenient. Plus, shouldn't it already know? It's 2022! Come on! And also, the start menu is less personalizable. The icons look like a phone app drawer or something like that. And the suggested apps section is completely unremovable and brings up something more, let's say, sinister, which brings me to the ugly of it. The data collection from Microsoft. They track our advertising ID and stuff. And now Windows is just a bloated data collector. And as for suggested apps, it potentially opens the door for Microsoft to suggest apps that it wants us to install on the start menu. They haven't done it yet, but the fact that they seem to know and collect our history on the apps we use is really concerning when it comes to privacy. Furthermore, widgets can be spy machines. It can track what we're interested in and sell all of our data to advertisers who will obviously advertise all the data from there on, say, completely unrelated stuff. And these are very heavy widgets, unlike the widgets from Windows 7 and Vista, of course. While they do look nice and stuff, yeah, it can be said that for just merely Microsoft advertisements, true, trying to get you to use Bing and stuff. And let's talk about the ads in Windows 11. OneDrive is built into File Explorer whether you want it or not. Sure, it might be a good service for some people who use it, but if you don't want it, it's still there. It's still built right in. And if you don't have a subscription, it'll tell you to get a subscription. Yeah, it's very unnecessary for sure. And also there are ads about Microsoft 365 and the settings app, like you can't even change the settings on your computer without having to run into a Microsoft app promoting its own products to you. Shouldn't you choose what you want because you just bought this thing? Come on! Sure, it does give you that choice, but it really tries hard to persuade you otherwise and give in to the Microsoft ecosystem. So overall, I, and I'm sure many others, have a mixed experience with Windows 11, and that basically summed up everything that it has to offer. Some good, some bad, and some ugly, as I said. Well, overall, it's just an okay experience. Sometimes good, and sometimes just plain infuriating. And that's all there isn't anymore. Bye now.